Jeremy Fowler, ESPN Plus, has put out his top 10 receivers, not his, what NFL executives, coaches, and scouts told him in a ranking. He's doing every position group, receivers near the end. And this is relevant because of the 49ers situation with Brandon Aiyuk, who Tuesday asked for a trade. If you didn't see or hear Tuesday's show, a lot of people are saying he officially asked for a trade. I don't know what that means. I don't think there's an official way to ask. So don't regurgitate officially asked for a trade. Just say he asked for a trade. Officially demanded. Officially, he asked for a trade as a tactic. And it shouldn't work. Now, here's this list. And I was very interested. I made my guess, some right, some wrong, of what the NFL would say. And I think what we see here is a reflection of why the draft played out the way it played out in terms of there not being many offers or any offers that were attractive to the 49ers. It's good. He's ranked 10th. That's good. He was unranked last year. He had a really good year, and the league thinks he's better than they thought he was a year ago at this time. But for him, it's bad. For the argument that he led the league in yards per catch, so he must be the best receiver in the league, it's bad. For the argument that PFF has him graded as the number 2 receiver in the NFL, so he must be that, it's bad. We can make all the lists we want. Not all lists are created equal. Some lists are shit. Some lists are relevant. This list is relevant. It's one of the few lists that really matters because when it comes to leverage, when it comes to how can he play the Niners against another offer out there, it doesn't matter what PFF thinks. It doesn't matter what you or I think. It only matters what are the people who might trade for him and who might pay him think. And that's who votes in this list. The league views him as a really good receiver, but not a tier 1 receiver, which I think is appropriate. I've said I think he is on a very small ledge of tier 2 guys. It's like really elite. For me, tier 1, and we'll look at this list in a second, Justin Jefferson, Tyreek Hill, Jamar Chase, Devontae Adams. We'll see. So I disagree with this list on one count, but that to me is tier 1. So tier 1 is game-changing, franchise level, pure old school number 1, any team, any system, anywhere on the field, it's curtains. That's the number 1 receiver. Okay. So here's the list. Let's get to it. Number 1, Justin Jefferson. I guessed incorrectly last night. I said, well, maybe they're going to move Tyreek up because I heard Jeremy Fowler say on Adam Shine's show on Sirius XM that he made a comment like, oh, Tyreek, you wait till you see what happened with Tyreek. Well, Tyreek moved up 4 spots to number 2. Okay, Tyreek Hill, number 2. Last year he was 4. Number 3, Jamar Chase. Number 4, CeeDee Lamb. So this surprised me a little. Last year, he was ranked 10th. Now he's ranked 3rd. You know, CeeDee Lamb is relevant because he's in the same draft class as Brandon Aiyuk, drafted ahead of him. Extremely productive, and also needs a new contract. Right now, he's got his 5th-year option, which will pay him $18 million. It pays Aiyuk's 5th year pays him $14 million, and he wants a new contract. And he has said he wants to be the highest-paid receiver in the league, and that he's not showing up till he gets a new contract. So the Cowboys are in a very similar situation as the 49ers. And if you're CeeDee Lamb, you definitely want Brandon Aiyuk to sign before you. Now, if you are not going to sign for anything but more money than Justin Jefferson, then it doesn't matter. But if you might sign for less money than Justin Jefferson, then you definitely need to wait and see what Brandon Aiyuk gets, because maybe Brandon Aiyuk gets traded and then somebody makes him the 2nd highest paid receiver in the league. And you're like, well, I'm better than him. So we're kind of both guys are kind of held up in some way by the other. And if Aiyuk wants to wait until CeeDee Lamb gets paid, that makes sense. Especially if you think CeeDee's going to be closer to Justin Jefferson than Tyreek Hill, which probably will be. So we're just stuck with these two. That's the top 4. Number 5, Devontae. I would have Devontae ahead of CeeDee Lamb, but as I said earlier, okay. Number 6, A.J. Brown. So it's interesting. It feels like this is where the list changes in Jeremy Fowler's mind, because he writes about A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown fought Lamb and Adams for the top 5, but didn't record enough tier 1 votes for consideration. So his tier 1 is 5 guys. My 4 plus CeeDee Lamb. Other receivers might be better all around, but if you need to win one-on-one slot fade, A.J. Brown can do that through contact, makes contested catches better than just about anyone, said an NFL personnel evaluator. 7. This is what I was waiting for. Amon-Ra St. Brown, 7th. Now, I predicted last night I thought Amon-Ra and Brandon Aiyuk would be side by side in this. For the record, I think I'm pretty pro Brandon Aiyuk. I have no issue with the argument that Amon-Ra St. Brown is better than him. When you watch Amon-Ra, he jumps off the screen, I think, more than Brandon Aiyuk does. Aiyuk is obviously way more of a blue chip player than, say, Brock Purdy is from a draft standpoint. And even from a tools standpoint. But he's a little, I think maybe anybody in the Shanahan offense gets docked a little, although Amon-Ra gets docked a little too. One NFC executive who didn't think as highly as Amon-Ra St. Brown said that scheme and what offensive coordinator Ben Johnson has done make him look really good. Not taking anything away from him, but he's more dependent on the scheme than some of the other receivers on this list. He's really tough. You know where the ball is going on third down. He's going to come up with it. These are some compliments of Amon-Ra. Here's a big compliment. Says an NFL coordinator. He has elite football instincts, understands how to attack leverage, runs hard every play, plays inside and outside, makes all the tough catches on high leverage downs, blocks, plays physical. The only thing he doesn't do is win outside the red line, close to the sideline. But that's not how the game works anyway. Last year, he received an honorable mention. I think these are interesting. Somebody ranked him as high as 5th, or somebody's. And some people ranked him, or somebody ranked him on, didn't have him ranked, had him unranked. So that was his range, was from 5th to unranked. I could see somebody having him ahead of CeeDee Lamb. I'd love to see that ballot. Number 8, Mike Evans. Good for Mike. I didn't expect him to be here. Number 9, Stephon Diggs. Stephon Diggs. I didn't expect him to be here either, in part because I think like people would want to vote for him. Highest ranked 5th, lowest ranked unranked. Last year he was 6th, so maybe that's a part of this. Number 10, was that 9? Yeah, number 10, Brandon Aiyuk. So I thought Aiyuk would be 9th on this list. He's 10th. This is good, right? Writes, in a way it's good. Writes Fowler, Aiyuk won a tiebreaker with Cooper Kupp. So Cooper Kupp was a guy who was ranked last year. Aiyuk's come a long way, said an NFL executive who voted Aiyuk top 3, more downfield production, huge jump in yards per catch, quietly has almost 300 career catches, excels as a blocker, lower body, ability as good as anybody. So, you could argue, hey, guy, you say this list is a reflection of the league, but actually, and it's true, like if you're going to play devil's advocate to what I said earlier, you'd say, well, it's a reflection of the consensus. But all you need is one person to say, no, I think this is a blue chip tier 1 receiver and I want him, right? So we don't know this NFL executive. We don't know what team he works for. But if this guy was on a team with a first round pick to trade and some cap space, maybe he would have traded for Brandon Aiyuk. He had him in the top 3. If you think he's a top 3 receiver, you trade the 17th pick and you pay him or whatever, right? But as we always see when it comes time to quote unquote trade a guy, the list of teams that can really acquire are low. The list of teams with the right assets to send, the list of teams with the amount of money, the list, maybe a GM. This guy, maybe this executive works for a team that has the money and had the draft capital, but maybe his coach is actually the one in charge of player personnel, not him, right? And maybe this is I'm just making things up. Maybe this is George Peyton Patton from the Broncos. Maybe that's who it is, right? Like, oh man, I would have traded him straight up for Patrick Surtain. Yeah, I'd have done that deal. But my head coach didn't want to do it, right? So like, there's all these scenarios where the right guy likes you or the right executive or coach doesn't, right? But it's interesting. It's interesting to see somebody has him top 3. That was his highest ranking. Some people also had him unranked. Last year he was unranked. So this is an improvement for Aiyuk. Honorable mentions: Cooper Kupp. Yeah, was it Adam Peters? Maybe it was Adam Peters trying to sow dissension among the 49ers ranks. But this is a good ranking. Premier route runner with off-field, open field juice. It's a good ranking. The thing is that some of these guys, like he's tied with, or had a slightly tied with Cooper Kupp, whatever that meant. Cooper Kupp's making $26.7 million a year. Now, it's hard to use some of these receiver contracts as comps because the market has jumped so significantly recently. But he's making 26, like the Niners would do that deal, not knowing what the guarantees are. That's where Amon-Ra is interesting, right? Because Amon-Ra's total guarantee is the 3rd highest in the league at $77 million. His full guarantee, like guaranteed at signing, is 15th. It's lower than even Debo's at $34 million, and his average is $30 million, which is 3rd behind AJ Brown and I want to say I wrote JJ and I want to say Juwan Jennings, but that's Justin Jefferson. Devontae Adams, right? Devontae way up on this list in tier 1. There's a gap here, 5 to 6. So here's Devontae. Devontae is making $28 million a year. That's, the Niners could get probably from 26 to $28 million a year. His full guarantee is $22 million. I don't remember what the deal was with that contract, but that's bizarre. That may not be top 20, but his total guarantee is $65 million, which is 9th, right? So as long as you don't get cut, you're getting that, which is the same argument with Amon-Ra St. Brown. Like, yeah, his full guarantee is 34. As long as he's not getting cut, then he'll get to the total guarantee, which is 77. Usually fully guaranteed is the number we like to talk about, but except for with like quarterbacks, we usually ignore it because quarterbacks make their money for the most part. Debo is, here's a little sneaky part of this list, is that Debo Samuel, for the 2nd year in a row, is right there in the honorable mention. People talk about, like, is he even a receiver? Is he even top 20? Yeah. Still one of the best playmakers in all of football, averaging 8.8 yards after the catch. Durability's been a bit of a concern, but he's the ultimate weapon, said an AFC executive. Here's Debo. Debo's total guarantee, $58 million. His full guarantee, $41 million. If you're Aiyuk, you definitely need to surpass those numbers. And his annual value is a non-factor here. It's much lower. Devontae Smith, I guess, might be in this list. He could be a number 1 somewhere else at a scout. He's $25 million a year. So if you're Aiyuk, you don't want 26. You're like, oh, I'm better than this guy. So we're waiting on CeeDee Lamb. I think it's also interesting that the quarterback list, which we talked about the other day, where Brock Purdy came in the honorable mention spot, which is where Cooper Kupp was. I actually think this is a deeper list than the receiver list. I think tier 1 goes further on here. To me, like, you could make an argument. I would not make it now, but you could make the argument that tier 1 on the quarterbacks goes all the way to the 8th spot with Aaron Rodgers, CJ Stroud 7. He's not there yet, but Herbert 6. You could make that argument. And then there's just a big fall off from 8 to 9, which there is in my mind, to Goff and Dak. But my point is the quarterback list is even, I think, more competitive, and Brock ended up in almost the same spot as Brandon Aiyuk did as an honorable mention. So, it's funny. Ethan Strauss, I think, was the first person who pointed this out. He's like, all these guys get knocked because of the people around them, and yet none of the guys are graded like number one at their position, except for McCaffrey and Trent Williams. But when it comes to like Debo, Aiyuk, Kittle is, I guess. But when it comes to Debo and Aiyuk and Purdy, so like, yeah, well, Purdy's got Aiyuk and Debo and the system. And it's like, yeah, but Aiyuk, I mean, you know, it's the system. Debo, I mean, what does he really do? Is he really that good? And, you know, so none of them are like top three guys, and yet they all get kind of knocked because the other, which is fine. There is something to be said for the collection of talent is significant. And that's true. It's absolutely true. Nico Collins got an honorable mention here. DK Metcalf. I mean, talk about like a guy who's so talented and he's not a top 15 receiver. It's really crazy. Tony Yayo. Yayo for yeah. Walk around. Yeah, I don't remember the word. Yeah. Walk around. Yeah. Tony says Nico Collins or Tank Dell. Is Tank Dell? Did Tank Dell make this list? Did he get a vote? Tank Dell did not get a vote. Puka Nacua did. Like I said this yesterday too. Puka's an example, right? A guy who Matthew Stafford got ranked 5th on that quarterback list. So there you go. I mean, that's where it's at. Aiyuk 10th. I don't think he'll be happy with that. I don't think he'll be happy being 3 spots behind Amon-Ra. That feels like a guy that he's kind of, so you got a little, you know, you could argue this list, if the 49ers get their team together, benefits the Niners in some way. Bosa was lower. I think Bosa was 4th, I want to say, on the pass rushers. So maybe that pisses him off. I don't know if he's paying attention. Amon well ahead of Aiyuk. That's got to piss him off. Goff ahead of Purdy. That should piss him off a little bit. So maybe there's a little edge here for the Niners. Edge rushers. Speaking of edge, it was Myles Garrett. 2 was T.J. Watt. 3 was Micah Parsons. 4 was Nick Bosa. Don't love that if you're Nick Bosa. So maybe this adds a little juice to the Niners, but they got to get this. They got to get this guy in here. I think the biggest risk right now for the 49ers is not that Brandon Aiyuk doesn't play for them this year. The biggest risk is that he's not ready to be his best self this year and that his production goes down. That's what would concern me right now. All this stuff about he says he wants out, blah, blah, blah. It's not irrelevant. But to me, what's relevant about it is it keeps them out of camp and it keeps them not maximizing. I want to see an off-season hard knocks on how the Niners are dealing with the Aiyuk contract. Well, I mean, you know, Debo put out a little mini doc the year after. So maybe Aiyuk's doing a lot of filming. You know, maybe that's what's going on. Let's see. I put up a little poll on the YouTube channel. For those of you watching on YouTube, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. If you're listening to the podcast, thank you. It's great to have you listening. Check out heyguy.co where you can send me messages, emails, and sign up for information on hats. And the plan there is to add some more stuff. I got the latest update from Steve. He said the hats are in. We're getting some rubber patches for the Hey Guy hats and the 262 hats. And hopefully we'll be firing those up by August. Also, check out, thank you to CIRCA Survivor, CIRCA Million, biggest pro football contest in Vegas are back. You go to Vegas to sign up. You sign up there through a proxy, and then you play from anywhere. Visit circasports.com. Click on contest, CIRCA Survivor, $10 million guaranteed to the winner. $1,000 entry. You pick one game per week. You can't pick the same team twice. You try to go undefeated, and then the CIRCA Million, $1,000 per entry, $6 million in guaranteed prizes. You pick 5 games against the spread every week. All right, let's get to a few of your. Let's get to the chat. Oh, I know what I was going to say. Sorry. So I did I put up a poll on the YouTube, and normally I put up some polls for the engagement. Sometimes the poll is, can we get this thing to 100 likes? Which I see other people do, seems to work. I didn't do that this time. But what I wrote in the poll on YouTube was Brandon Aiyuk is ranked 10th. And then there's 3 options. He should have been higher. He shouldn't have been ranked. That's perfect. I have a feeling this is kind of a loaded question right now, right? Like if I had asked this question going into the Super Bowl, I feel like there'd be a lot more pro Aiyuk voting. If Brandon Aiyuk signs a contract in a week or two and then has 8 catches and a touchdown in the opener against the Jets, then there'll be more pro Aiyuk voting. Right now, I think people are, people always look at it from the team's perspective. It's like, hey man, like just 26 million, you're the 7th best receiver, take that, right? Or whatever. Anyway, so here's the results. 35% of people say he should have been higher. 10% of people say he shouldn't have been ranked. 54% of people say that's perfect. All right. Aiyuk, Kevin says, Aiyuk doesn't make my top 10. He makes mine. But, if it would have been interesting, like what if Cooper Kupp had a really good year last year? This list does have quite a bit of change. Here we go. I like this one. Comment, how can you all sleep at night? Well, Aiyuk is getting screwed this bad. The guy's only going to make $14 million this year. I hope he'll be okay. I'm worried, honestly. It's good to have some sympathy. JT says, are you ready for the Open? Yes. The Open. The British Open, the Open Championship. Tom Watson, was it Stuart Sink that he lost to? If Tom Watson had won that Open, what year was that? Like 2012? Open. That was 2009. That would have been, God, that would have been one of my favorite sporting events of all. It was. I mean, it was so excellent. But if Tom Watson had won, it would have been one of my favorite anythings in sports of all time. So yes, I'm ready for the Open. Comment question. Charles says, how was this list made again? Coaches poll or something? So many of these rankings these days just seem like they're created to boost engagement, and Aiyuk at 10 would do just that. This is a legit list. Now the coaches poll, like in college football, here's a little secret for you guys as a big college football guy with a huge week of college football. I've been told the announcement, not that I'm like, it's not that the world is waiting for the announcement, but I'll be able to tell you what I'm doing for college football next week. But like the coaches poll in college football, the coaches don't really vote in that thing. There are like the media assistants, the sports information directors vote. This is execs, NFL executives, scouts, and coaches vote. Execs, coaches, scouts. So this is not geared. I mean, it's geared toward engagement because anything that happens in this vote would be good for engagement, but it's not a list of writers or what like that. I think this and the Sando list to me are always pretty significant. Evil Miniature says, new subscriber. Hope this live will be a vid. Have to dip out. Just want to say I do hope Aiyuk stays. I love the chem between him and Purdy. Catch you in another one. Yes. Anytime there's a live video, it stays up. It also is a podcast. If you want to catch it on the go, you can just click on the podcast link in the description. It's a podcast. And the same for podcast listeners. If you want to watch it, just click on the link in the description. I will tell you this, not paid. This is not a paid ad. YouTube Premium is, I got YouTube Premium for some reason. Oh, because I wanted to download some videos for my trip to Portugal. And then I think I would plan to cancel it because it's like $15 a month. And I think I just might keep it because there's no ads. And you can close out, like if I'm watching a video, I can close my phone out completely and the audio will still play and it'll display on my lock screen. So it's pretty great. I do like that. But yes, all these excuse me, all these are available to view later. A comment, the hair has a little extra shine today. Did you modify the formula? Oh my God. This Now, this is an observational eye. Yes, actually. So normally the formula is two things. The first is a little lighter hold with more shine. The second is a little stronger hold with a matte finish, and it reduces the shine a little bit, gives a little bit of hold, but makes it look a little more natural. But on days that there's a science to this. On days that I get my hair cut, I don't put the second product in on top of the first product because I want this to be easy to work with for Laz, the neighborhood barber. So yes, actually, the formula is different today. It's always this way on a haircut day. Don't put the extra stiff stuff in on a haircut day. Gabriel asks, does this mean BA's contract demands are going to go up since he's 10th on the list? No, I don't think so. I think he would have loved to have been 7th on this list and ahead of Amon-Ra. And to be clear, I don't think his agent or John Lynch are using this list either way. But if you're his agent or you're Aiyuk, you would have loved to have been 6th on this list and be like, see, look, I'm ahead of Amon-Ra. The league thinks I'm ahead of Amon-Ra, so pay me like it. John Lynch and the Niners, they already know what the league thinks because they've taken people who've called them and told them what they would offer. Evan says Aiyuk is much better than some of the guys ahead of him. Not his fault. There's a bunch of dudes on the Niners. Yeah, I mean, like I think his numbers would be different potentially different on a different team. On one hand, you'd be like, well, the numbers would have to go up if he went and played for the Patriots. But would they? Like, oh, he's the clear number one. Right. Catching passes from Drake May. Go ask Devontae. Is it better? You know? So to me, it's a little complicated. Like part of getting open is the team you play for, the coach that gets you open, the fact that there are other people on your roster that get attention, right? So on one hand, you're like, well, the ball has to get spread around, so that's less targets. True. But there's also Debo and McCaffrey and Kittle to take attention away from you. And Juice. Juice, I got to find out what Juice shot in Tahoe. I didn't see his final scoring. Okay, that's it for this morning. Thanks for checking in. I was eagerly awaiting this, and glad we got to talk about it. Again, if you're watching, hit the like button. Appreciate it. Subscribe to the video. Share it with somebody. And if you're listening on the podcast, go to Apple Podcasts. Leave a review. 5 stars. Appreciate that. Leave a question for the mailbag in that review. Or go to heyguy.co. Heyguy.co. And where did I go? Go to heyguy.co. And you can send me a message there. Make sure to click the box that says, yes, I want marketing. I'm not sending you any BS. It just gets you on the marketing list so that when I put hats up for sale, you will be among the first to know. Or you can send a mailbag message. Some people always ask me like, hey, I've already done the Apple review, or I don't use Apple. How can I send you a mailbag? And I tell people, you can go to Instagram and send me a DM there, but stuff gets lost in the shuffle. If you email it using the form, which is easy to use at heyguy.co, you can go to the website by scanning the QR code on the screen right now too. Then I'll see it. So anyway, thanks for hanging, and I'll talk to everybody.